On Monday, October 24th, it's time for episode 128 of the 359 podcast with Ben Fox Rubin and Alfred Ng. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about, obviously, the big AT&T Time Warner deal. We're going to get into more Samsung Galaxy Note 7 news.
I thought we were done with that.
No, it'll never be over.
This is like Jon Snow coming back to life again.
Yeah, even worse. Even worse than that. And then we'll end with an interesting feature that Alfred, you wrote about that came out today. As always, send in your questions and comments. Brian's going to get through them at the end of the show. And yeah, ready? Let's get moving.
Let's do it. And in 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359, where we talk about the top tech news of the day, plus whatever crap we want to throw in. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
And I'm Alfred Ng.
All right, the big news this weekend is, of course, AT&T's mega deal to buy Time Warner, with the phone company snatching up the owner of HBO, CNN, and movie studios Warner Brothers. The acquisition is expected to close by the end of next year. So, Alfred, do you think this deal makes sense?
I think it makes perfect sense. AT&T, they were looking for a content provider. Mm-hmm. They have this giant platform where they have, they're trying to push out DirecTV now, and
which is their online streaming service that they're gonna
it's supposed to come out in November.
Yeah,
they're trying to just have more content for all their devices that they have out there, and it makes perfect sense to have Time Warner. So instead of them trying to create their own content, they have this giant platform where they can just take all this stuff that's already being shared like crazy. I mean, think about how many people tweet about Game of Thrones every Sunday, and now they're going to be able to have that.
I can buy that. That makes sense from AT&T's perspective, but what exactly does Time Warner get out of this? I mean, are they going to benefit from this deal in any way, do you think?
I think they get a massive platform to be on. Now, I mean, obviously they're already on everyone's television, and then, you have all these apps that you can already watch it from. You can watch it from Roku, Amazon, all these different, you can watch it on your TV, or if you log in from your smartphone. But I think, this partnership with AT&T gives them kind of more, a place to provide more features.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that as much. I like what you said about the AT&T stuff.
Yeah.
The other aspect that I think is interesting is that, first of all, regulators still have to approve this deal. And if they do, I basically think that every telco and every media company is going to be scrambling to try to find a partner. So I, for one, will welcome our new corporate overlords when CBS gets taken over, but we'll see what happens with that.
I think they're going to have a hard time getting it through the regulators. They did a conference call today, and they're not worried about that at all. They're kind of, they made the same argument on Saturday that this is not a horizontal integration, more so vertical. I'm not convinced, but we'll see how it goes when it gets to Capitol Hill.
Yeah. Next, Samsung is reportedly still trying to figure out why Galaxy Note 7 phones are catching fire, and that's now causing delays in the development of the upcoming Galaxy S8. So do you think Samsung is ever going to be able to pull it together? This sounds really problematic that they still don't actually know why the phones had those problems.
I think they'll be able to pull it together. I think this is, a pretty big deal that you should probably solve before you start, developing your next phone. Mm-hmm. They didn't solve it before they
did
their recall.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's probably this should be priority number one. I think it's a good thing that they're, not saying we'll figure it out on the next phone. But I do think it's weird that they still haven't been able to figure it out yet, considering that so many of their other devices aren't exploding.
Yeah.
It's weird that this one, device has been tripping them up so hard.
Yeah, I think they will figure it out, but it is surprising that it's taking time, and it's expected that there would be some bleed over.
To be fair, though, please take your time.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how embarrassing it would be in the next year when they drop it again? And
I really, really don't expect that to happen. I would hope. So last, Alfred, you wrote a story today about a company called Sesame Enable, which develops an app for people with physical disabilities. Can you tell us how it works a bit?
Yeah, so it uses the front-facing camera on your phone. You need an Android 7.0 device, though. And using that, it scans your head, and then it basically generates a cursor on your phone screen, and then you move your head around, pretty much as like a mouse, kind of on your screen. So you don't need your hands or anything like that. And it's been really helpful to the paraplegic community. who haven't been able to use their hands or needed a caregiver to, control their phones for them. Some people have been able to use it to run their own companies now. Others,
Wow.
They can make private phone calls, or one man even used it to, order flowers for his wife, who usually was the one helping him use the phone, so he could never really surprise her with anything.
Wow, very cool. Well, check out this story. And if you want to read more about that or other stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Alfred Ing.
Thanks very much.
Want to say that line one more time?
How did I
forgot
botch
your
my-
last name.
I can edit that in post. Why don't you just go give me?
I'm
give
Alfred
me,
Ing.
I have no clue how I botched that.
That's okay. It's,
Just say it again.
you
I
get-
can cut this later.
I'm Alfred Ing.
There we go.
Oh, that was nice. I like the second go around. That was highly
just don't know.
What
confident.
happened?
For messing up your name, that was very confident second attempt.
I don't think it was the name. I think it was the I'm. It was,
Whatever.
yeah, I'm Alfred Ing.
It's a daily podcast, people. Just bear with us while we.
Which means he
smooth it
should
out.
know his own name by now.
Okay.
I
all right.
don't- I
I'm
don't-
trying to be nice.
Look, I don't introduce myself to people very often, okay?
Really? I always introduce myself as I'm Ben Fox Rubin. Nice to meet you.
It's true because Ayaz, every time he sees me in the hall, goes, "Hey, I'm still Ayaz." Oh,
Nice. Do we have any questions?
Yeah. Elephant in the room. An iPhone 7 exploded as well.
Yes. Okay.
Let's talk about
That
that.
happened.
Fair.
Absolutely.
All right. I think it was just one. It's very, to me, it seems like more of an outlier at this point than what ended up happening with the Note 7s, which they were happening so often that they had to do multiple recalls on them.
Right.
So,
Well, this is a first, though. Maybe there's going to be more happening on the next few weeks. Maybe we'll be doing
Could be.
Apple can't figure out why their iPhone 7s are exploding.
If that were the case, then we have a serious problem with battery technology, and we don't know why our technology is doing what it's doing, which would be extremely scary and
and then
problematic.
I'm getting ready for the headline, Unlucky number 7.
Ooh,
Don't steal that. But,
don't steal that. Don't steal that.
But if that does happen, oh, yeah, of course. I'm terrified of battery technology now.
Yeah, but what's weird about it is smartphones have been around for 10 years. Why? Well, more if you're going to include BlackBerry, of course. But why would it be happening now with the iPhone also?
I think it keeps coming back to that conversation we had, I think last week, maybe the week before. It's going to completely change the game for quality control. Maybe we just got lazy.
Yeah.
Collectively.
Yeah. But I think
And
that
the other
Apple,
thing, someone else in the chat last week definitely said, it's electronics and mechanical moving parts and chemicals. Things are going to explode, and they absolutely are. But like you said, this is what was that look?
What the I'm sorry, but what?
Thank you for not dropping an F-bomb.
Things are going to explode.
Well, he's saying
Think about
the
how much
risk.
technology has been around
risk-
for
no,
so
he's-
long.
The risk
I would
factor-
agree that the risk is.
Well, that's
is
like saying a
increased as
car
they
will
get
never
more
catch on fire
sophisticated.
again. There's always going to be an inherent risk when
Yeah.
you're working with these elements.
Especially when they make them smaller, pack in more technology for sure. However,
When they happen on a
Apple-
consistent basis.
I'm going
That's-
to go out on a limb and say Apple would be one of the dumbest companies in the world if they saw what was happening with Samsung, where they were twisting themselves in a pretzel over the fact that their flagship phone was literally crashing and burning.
Yeah.
And then they still came out with the iPhone 7 if it did have quality control problems. I think that seems unlikely to me. However, crazy things do happen, so we'll see if more iPhone 7s catch fire. At this point, it seems like an outlier.
I mean, weren't other previous iPhones also catching fire? But again, it was an outlier case where it was kind of just that one phone.
Yeah, I mean, they make millions of them,
Yeah.
so there are always going to be cases where something is going to go horribly wrong.
Collective percentage across all smartphones,
Right.
we're not doing too bad.
I hope so. I hope so. Because if those two flagship phones, suggesting that were the case, and it's not the case at this point, if that were to happen, we're going back to the Stone Age.
Yeah.
I'm going to just buy a flip phone because
Brick
I know it's
phone.
not going to explode in
Get
my
a
face.
pigeon.
Yeah, just get a pigeon or a brick phone. I would love it if fashion were the way that it is, where brick phones
Fully
would come
cyclical.
back. Yeah, or you just come back with these things. It would be
I mean,
really
have you
awesome.
been to Brooklyn lately?
No, I haven't. I make it a point not to go there.
Find and then just use the Find My Brick Phone app.
Find my brick phone,
It's actually just a string that you keep tied to your belt loop.
or like one of those twisty cords or something. It'd be the
string.
least technology
It's like a
thing
string
ever.
in 2 cups.
Yeah.
That's what I use now.
Right, and then that thing will blow up too. That thing will explode in your face.
We've kind of touched on this before, but maybe opinions have changed. Nurme in the chat asks, will they permanently stop the Note line now?
We've definitely talked about that before, and there are many people that are on this podcast, Roger and Alfred included, that seem pretty confident that that's going to happen. I'm still skeptical that they're going to give up on the Note line after developing it for years, but let's sit tight and find out.
Well, you think about that story that we were, just talking about. It's saying that, these battery explosions are delaying the S8 production, not the Note 8.
Right, because the S8 is the next one to come out in like late February or March. So they're still working on the Note 8, I hope. I think.
I don't know. Maybe they might not be.
Yeah,
if I were them, if I were them, I wouldn't be.
You know what they could call it is the Samsung iPhone.
And then there's
ruin that name too.
And then there's also talks about, just essentially Samsung moving to a one phone a year like timeline, as opposed to, dropping like 3 or 4 different phones.
Yeah, that is, it could be a way of, maybe they would just call it the S8 Plus or something, because the S8 name hasn't, like the S name hasn't been tarnished the same way as the Note name.
Yeah, that's
so
what,
you could do the S8 Edge, the S8.
That's
the
what
S8
Roger
Plus.
and I were talking about, though. It's not.
Is that right?
It's not them just dropping the Note line. I think it's more so dropping the name of it, just because it's such like bad press for them now that like, whatever phone they drop, whatever Note they drop next year, it's going to be scrutinized like crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have any like AT&T Time Warner questions?
Yeah, so here's a really good one. With the marriage of AT&T and Time Warner, will that start axing HBO from other carriers like Comcast and Xfinity?
Right. So that's a big concern from a consumer perspective, that if AT&T ends up controlling HBO, CNN, those different places, are they going to then put them in their own little garden and not let anybody else have them? From a distribution perspective, that's obviously very problematic for Time Warner, because they make the most money by distributing it to the most places. But would AT&T benefit from that in some way? Maybe.
I think that would be really stupid on AT&T's part.
Especially for CNN, because it's like an editorial type of situation.
I mean, they already noted today that AT&T is not going to have any like part of CNN's editorial decisions.
Which is smart to say that.
I am saying that it would be a really stupid play for AT&T, just because, a lot like even CNN and, Game of Thrones, a lot of their like popularity has been through, people unfortunately taking their clips and posting it on their own pages and things like that. Just like, just getting around everywhere, like the Time Warner model you were talking about. And, for AT&T to just say, we're just going to keep this private to ourselves, they would just be saying, please pirate our content.
Yeah.
If that were the case.
I would say though that like, don't take AT&T's word at face value, and like obviously regulators aren't going to take that position either. And that's why deals like this, where a distributor ends up buying a content provider, is problematic for consumers. This is like, okay, is it going to be harder for us to get this content now? So that's why I think regulators are going to scrutinize this one very, very closely.
And related, how do you think this will up the chain into Warner Brothers movies? Similarly.
So that distribution model is a little bit different, as opposed to like TV and cable. So distributing it to movie theaters is probably going to stay the same, because those are different companies. Afterwards, maybe the distribution model could change. Like after it like leaves the theaters, like maybe AT&T ends up holding on to those a little bit longer. I have no idea.
I think the speculation is more so about like, you're probably not going to see that many, Time Warner movies on Netflix or Amazon Prime anymore. With that, in that regards, with AT&T wanting to put it on their own platform,
right? Like DirecTV now.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit more likely, and I think Netflix has been preparing for this for some time now, with all the original program that it's been, adding to its library. I think they expected, all these like conglomerates to just take over and take their media.
Fringe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's kind of a shame, because it kind of defeats the purpose of what we were all hoping
the internet would be.
Those of us who were the code cutters were like, the a la carte model, now you're just making it more complicated. Now I'm going to pay the exact same amount of money to buy like 27 different.
Yeah. That being said, a
much-
lot of those fears haven't really borne out with NBC Universal. When Comcast bought NBC Universal, like you can still get a lot of NBC shows on Netflix and I think Amazon. So it benefits these companies, like the content providers. It benefits them to get their stuff in as many places as possible. Netflix pays, so I don't know how much sense it makes for them to like only have it in DirecTV now, but it is certainly a possibility. So from AT&T's perspective, it would benefit, but it wouldn't benefit Time Warner.
I think we're in that post-honeymoon online streaming content phase where everybody starts diverting off on their own path, and then we realize that was a stupid mistake, and we come back and fix it later.
Right. Let's
we had it right the first time.
Let's ruin everything and then go back and fix it later. That seems
America.
That seems to be the direction the world is taking from Brexit on down.
2016 theme.
The 2016 theme. Let's break stuff and then figure out how to fix it later. So
maybe they should be more concerned for Warner Brothers to actually start making some better comic book movies before they.
Oh, that's a burn. It's accurate too. That's
a Samsung Note 7 right there. And on that note, 7, probably time to wrap it up.
Okay, that works for me. Thanks everybody for your questions as always. We'll be back tomorrow. The 359 podcast is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FeedBurner, Google Play Music, and of course on CNET.com. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon.